And I know we've got a lot of information that we want to share, a lot of important information. And I think by the end of the webinar today, you're going to have some great next steps on how to get LGBT-BE certified. With that, let me introduce myself. My name is Tammy Wallace. I am the co-founder and board chair for the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber. Welcome. We're very, very glad to have you here. I want to thank the NGLCC and our corporate partner Shell for sponsoring our webinar today, as well as our colleagues at the Texas LGBT Chambers of Commerce for co-hosting this event. You may say, what makes up the Texas LGBT Chambers of Commerce? That is the Austin LGBT Chamber, the North Texas LGBT Chamber, and the San Antonio LGBT Chamber. And for our members that are on today, welcome, and guests, again, we're glad to have you here. I just want to make a couple of quick announcements, especially if you're new to the Chamber. We have a lot of great webinars coming up, including information about coping with stress. Literally, hurricane season just started. I don't know if everyone saw. We have a named tropical storm already in the Atlantic that I think has made its way up the East Coast. So we're going to talk about insurance in our Ask the Expert series. The NGLCC is hosting a variety of webinars. And also we have on our website SBA webinars. If you received a PPP loan, you want to understand the requirements around the PPP forgiveness. An application was just released by the SBA. More information continues to come out. So you can find all that information on our website at www.houstonlgbtchamber.com. And I do want to just mention, if you're a member of the Houston LGBT Chamber, your LGBT-BE certification fee is waived. That is a wonderful partnership, reciprocal partnership that we have with the National LGBT Chamber, and it's a great way to collaborate, and we are continually advocating and pushing our members to learn more about getting certified and see if it makes sense for your business. So again, you'll learn more about that today. A couple of housekeeping items. We're going to do Q&A later in the presentation, but feel free to put any questions in chat. We'll share those with the presenters. And we're also going to be recording, and this presentation will be sent to all the participants after the webinar, so you will receive that as well to help you. So with that, let me introduce our first presenter, and I'm so excited. This is the first time, Sabrina, I think that we've engaged you with Houston LGBT Chamber, but we're so glad to have Sabrina Gill Kent. She is the Senior Vice President with the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, or commonly known as the NGLCC. She serves as a member of NGLCC's executive leadership and supports the efforts of its board of directors in advocating for economic empowerment of LGBT-owned businesses, both within the U.S. and globally. Her work focuses on strategic projects across the organization, and she leads the NGLCC internship program. You're going to hear a little bit more about that, having served as the meetings and education intern during her undergraduate career. Sabrina oversees NGLCC's Supplier Diversity Initiative, which is certainly why we have her here today, and the New York operations. She is also a member of the NGLCC global team. With that, Sabrina, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Just sharing my screen here. Tammy, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I'm thrilled to be here with y'all today to talk about how to become an NGLCC certified LGBT business enterprise. Thank you so much, Tammy and the Houston Chamber, for including me in this program. I know originally we anticipated meeting in person, and of course plans do change sometimes. But I just want to say a huge thank you to you, and of course all of the Texas LGBT chambers for including NGLCC in this conversation. And I do appreciate you putting me before Brian Hall, because it's hard to follow that act. So you'll hear from Brian later on in the program, who's one of our incredible corporate partners from Shell at NGLCC. Brian also leads our mentorship program. And I know that he's a great partner to the Houston Chamber, as well as many other Texas chambers. So moving forward, how to become an NGLCC certified LGBT business enterprise. So first, just a little bit of an overview of who we are. We were founded in 2002 by Justin Nelson and Chance Mitchell, our co-founders and president and CEO. They're still with us today, leading the helm of the ship, and I'm very lucky that I get to work closely with them. We are the business advocate and direct link between LGBT business owners, corporations, and government partners. We really look at LGBT procurement as a holistic ecosphere, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. But the Supplier Diversity Initiative and the LGBTBE certification, what we're here to talk about today, was created in 2004, 2 years after we launched. So I mentioned a bit that we work with corporations and the government. We lead policy efforts on the state and local levels for LGBT business inclusion in local and state contracting opportunities. We've passed landmark legislation all across the country, and those efforts still continue on today. We work with half of the Fortune 500, like companies like Shell, that accept our certification to help businesses like yours gain entry into corporate supply chains. We founded the National Business Inclusion Consortium in 2011, known as NBIC for short. That comprises NGLCC, the National Minority Supplier Development Council, the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Pan-Asian American Chamber of Commerce, bear with me because there's a lot of us, Disability In, U.S. Black Chambers, Inc., NAVOBA for veteran-owned businesses, Women Impacting Public Policy, WeBank, the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, We Connect International for global LGBT-owned businesses. So all together, we represent a diverse business body, and together annually, we honor the top 50 corporations for cross-segment diversity and inclusion. And we also align on policy efforts when we can, because we know that on our own, we do represent a strong economic impact in the United States, but together we are combined economic impact of $9 trillion annually through our different diverse groups. And of course, something unique about being LGBT is that we are not just LGBT, we're women, we're persons of color, persons with disabilities, veterans, and so forth. And when we can be recognized as such, we should be. So that's sort of the premise of the NBIC. We have more than 65 affiliates in the US and globally. We are in over 30 countries, and affiliates like the Houston and Texas LGBT chambers are the backbone of how we support LGBT businesses like yours. As Tammy said before, your membership is local and your certification is national. So when you're a member of a local LGBT chamber of commerce, there is no fee to get certified. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Our headquarters are in Washington, D.C., and I recently relocated to New York City, perfect timing in this climate that we're all in, and I oversee our NGLCC NY local affiliate chamber there. We established the global division in 2014, and so we also have international registered LGBTI businesses outside of those certified LGBT business enterprises here in the U.S. And then last but not least, we host the largest LGBT business event in the world, the NGLCC International Business and Leadership Conference. Unfortunately, this year's is canceled, but that is a convening of all of our stakeholder groups for 4 days of networking, plenary, symposia, matchmaking, and so forth to help our companies grow and scale, and to help our corporate partners connect with qualified, diverse LGBT-owned businesses to fulfill their procurement needs. So moving forward, I mentioned before that we work with over half of the Fortune 500 that accepts our certification. And what does that mean? So supplier diversity is the intentional inclusion of socially and/or economically disadvantaged groups in procurement opportunities. That means that companies are looking to do business with diverse-owned firms. Now, is the LGBTBE certification or other diverse business certification your golden ticket to a contract? No, but it's your entry point. It's your foot in the door. It still means that you need to have a quality and competitive bid. And I know Brian's going to drop some wisdom in this regard in a little bit. But supplier diversity and your certification is really the conduit for you to be able to expand opportunity for your businesses, to gain access to that networking opportunity and that community of folks that are looking to do business with you because you are LGBT, not in spite of the fact that you're LGBT. So we really look at the business case for inclusion as a holistic effort that not only includes internal workforce and marketplace, but also procurement and sourcing from LGBT-owned businesses. If you're not buying with our community, spending your dollars with our community, are you really supporting our community holistically? And we believe the answer is no. So your connection to LGBTBE certification. Through our supplier diversity team at NGLCC and through our local affiliate chambers of commerce, we help you through the certification process. I know Tammy and her team are always standing by to help people understand the ins and outs of that, but you also get paired with a dedicated supplier diversity associate from the NGLCC team to walk you through the process of certification. We then connect you with opportunities with fellow LGBTBE companies to do business with. We also work with you to leverage your certification to achieve your business goal, provide educational programming and other opportunities, which I'll jump into in a little bit later. And we conduct weekly webinars outside of those educational opportunities that I mentioned before, like mentorship or the Accelerate LGBTBE Capacity Development Program. So we launched about 3 years ago the NGLCC Stakeholder Engagement Center. And the Stakeholder Engagement Center is our 24/7, 365 connection center, helping you connect with fellow LGBTBE companies, helping our corporate partners find qualified LGBTBEs to fulfill their bids and their RFP needs, and to share broadly information opportunities that are not just coming from within NGLCC, but also from our 250 plus corporate partners. This team is sort of what we call a procurement concierge to help make sure that our businesses are staying connected with different opportunities in our network. So what is LGBTBE certification? So the NGLCC is the only LGBT business certifying body in the US. And we do this for businesses that are 51% or more owned, operated, and controlled by an LGBT person or persons. This is sort of the gold mark in saying your company is in fact LGBT owned, and we'll go through a little bit what that process looks like. But as I said before, your certification is nothing without the local opportunities that you have with being a part of your membership. Not only is that fee waived, but you get those in-person frequent touch points by being a part of your local chamber. You get access to opportunities such as this and so much more. So to get certified, it's a pretty simple process. First, you collate all of the documents that prove that you are in fact a legal business entity, as well as status qualifier documents that essentially affirm that you are in fact an LGBT person. And some people believe this is invasive, and the whole point is to ensure that you are who you say you are, and to make sure that folks that might not be a part of the community aren't capitalizing on opportunities for our LGBT business community. So once you upload those documents on the my.nglcc.org portal, you can start your profile right now if you want to. Our team will conduct a virtual site visit, or one of our local site visitors in the region will conduct a virtual site visit to ensure that everything that was on paper is in fact the case and is true. And then that file then goes to review with an NGLCC National Certification Committee that meets once a month to say these files can be approved for certification, and therefore our companies are then awarded their certification number. Again, the certification fee is waived if you are a member of one of your local affiliate chambers. So it is so vitally important to stay connected to that local network beyond just the needs for certification. Here's an example of what the certification document would look like once your company would be certified. This is something that you can use in different proposals. It's something that you can use when you're requested by a corporate partner to ensure that your business is in fact certified as an LGBT business enterprise. The certification is valid for 2 years as a part of that. And the recertification process is much more minimal in comparison to the initial onboarding. So benefits, we talked about this already. You receive national recognition with our corporate partners and government agencies, and then you also gain access to the database of certified LGBTBEs and corporate partners on MyNGLCC. Beyond that, you are then intentionally included in those stakeholder engagement opportunities that I mentioned before, and we are always connecting you with those corporate and government opportunities to ensure that your company is growing and gaining business. But again, it always comes down to that quality and competitive bid. You can utilize the NGLCC certified LGBTBE logo after you've been certified. We have companies that list that on their packaging, on their business cards. Some companies have 2 sets of business cards, one where they want to show out and proud that they are an LGBT business enterprise, and one set where they're not so sure of who they might be engaging with. But it's a great opportunity to start a conversation about certification and to ensure that you are being counted in supplier spend as a diverse supplier. Beyond that, we host matchmaking meetings all throughout the year, not just at our International Business and Leadership Conference, but also at other events, as well as now we're pivoting to a virtual model for some very exciting broad and also stakeholder specific matchmaking opportunities. And those would be opportunities for you to sit down with a supplier diversity professional and sometimes a buyer from a company to talk about how you might be able to fulfill their needs. A couple of opportunities that we didn't talk about before, our mentorship program. So Brian, I'm going to turn it to you at the end of this to give the real spiel about the mentorship program. But as an LGBTBE, you can be assigned as a protege to a corporate mentor like Brian, for example, to help you out throughout a year of mentorship and conversation and networking and opportunity to really understand what your goals are as a business and to help you sort of pave that path to achieve them. It's a very exciting program. And for those of you that are here and are certified right now, we are accepting applications for next year's cohort. And Brian happens to be one of our chairs of the mentorship program. The Strategic Growth and Development Institute, we launched the NGLCC, Wells Fargo, and Dell Small Business LGBTBE XLR8 Capacity Development Program, which will be a year-long opportunity, first with a concentrated learning opportunity virtually over a series of 6 weeks, and then you'll be paired with a corporate mentor outside of the traditional mentorship program for a series of years to sort of be that shoulder to lean on as you continue to grow and take away information that you gleaned in the program. We have just closed applications for the first cohort of that program, but more will be coming soon. And beyond that, we provide an array of professional development opportunities, including our weekly and monthly webinars and other such programs. The NGLCC Trans Inclusion Task Force is something that is deeply near and dear to my heart. I oversee this from the team side, and the goal of the task force is to not only make sure that we are being inclusive of our trans and gender nonconforming business owners in the certification process, but also ensuring that we give an economic identity to the trans community. And I'll talk about that in a little bit when I refer to the America's LGBT Economy Report. Similarly, the NGLCC Communities of Color Initiative is focused on minority LGBT-owned businesses to help them expand and grow through certification and by providing equal opportunities for them as a community to continue to learn and grow. As I said before, we're not just LGBT, we comprise so much more than that. So the America's LGBT Economy Report, in 2017, we released a study that found that the LGBT-owned businesses in the US, this is a conservative estimate, are projected to contribute $1.7 trillion nationally or annually to the national economy. And that is huge, but as I said, this number is conservative and we're looking to actually update this study within the next year. But not only do we have significant economic contributions, we're job creators, we're taxpayers, we are healthcare providers, and so much more, that when we are advocating for ourselves on any platform, it's important to have those economic identity numbers behind us, because folks might understand the moral argument for inclusion, or they may not, but money tends to resonate. And so when we talk about this figure, not just in the US, but across borders, we're able to advocate on a deeper level. And particularly with the Trans Inclusion Task Force, we're looking to provide an economic identity for the trans and gender nonconforming community so that we can best advocate for some of the most vulnerable within our community. So working with corporations, I'm not going to jump too far into this because I know Brian is going to be sharing this, and I know that I'm bumping up on my time here. But our corporate supplier diversity professionals, they advocate for strategic sourcing with certified diverse suppliers. They are not the golden ticket to your contract. They are a relationship that a person that you develop a relationship with over time to help you eventually land that contract. There are periods of time that it takes for opportunities to even open up, but having that relationship with a supplier diversity professional allows them to be able to pass you on to their procurement team and their buyers when those purchasing decisions are being made. I often use an example of an LGBT supplier who met one of our partners over 3 years ago, and they just kept in touch over LinkedIn and Facebook, and when they'd see each other at events, and then 3 years later, by circumstance, they ended up receiving that golden ticket contract, and it was the largest contract they'd ever received as a company. And that really changed the way that they do business, but it also is a great emblem of how to do business as it relates to certification and in supplier diversity. So our corporate partners reach out to us with opportunities in RFP. They send information on their personal development opportunities as a company, also with different procurement and networking and other events. And then they serve as mentors in the mentorship program. We then do our best to match our relevant LGBTBEs with those RFP opportunities, and we send over capability information and so on and so forth through the Stakeholder Engagement Center. Tiered contracting is sort of a new, I think, trend in supply diversity. It's been around forever, but the concept is that a company like Shell, for example, might not just be looking for that tier one direct service provider. They might also be looking to see who you are spending money with. Are you also spending your money with a diverse owned firm? So the example here is Shell is contracting with a large marketing firm, and that large marketing firm is then contracting with graphic designers, printers, and promo item suppliers that are all diverse in their own right. And this is sort of a holistic view of supplier diversity, not just saying we're directly spending money with you, but who are you also spending that money with? Where can we move this forward? And then that larger company can also count that spend overall for those direct needs and services. So a couple programs and initiatives. We've definitely made a strong pivot in recent times due to COVID-19. So we first have our COVID-19 resource hub, which is being updated every single day with different opportunities from SBA to our corporate partners and beyond, and highlighting some of the great work that our LGBTBEs are doing in this space. I strongly encourage you to check that out. Webinar Wednesdays, we've got a program coming up today from 2 to 3 Eastern. 5 video marketing tips to grow your company during COVID-19. This program happens every single Wednesday. And then finally, our LGBT Sip and Pitch Fridays program. Last week was our second program in the series. Originally, it was set to be a monthly program, and now it's happening twice monthly because we've seen such success and excitement from the program. I strongly encourage you to join us and check it out. You can learn more at nglcc.org/sip-and-pitch, and you do not have to be certified in order to apply to pitch in the competition. That was something that we were intentional about to make sure that you, as members of our affiliates, have the opportunity to engage with the NGLCC net broadly, exposure for your company, and learn how to hone in on that pitch. So with that, be sure that you are taking advantage of opportunities with your local chambers of commerce. In Texas, you have some of the strongest in the United States that are here to support you and help you grow on your journey, not only as local members, but through certification as well. With that, you can also contact our supplier diversity team at supplierdiversity@nglcc.org to learn more. I know they'll be sharing this deck afterwards if there's anything that you missed. But with that, I just want to say thank you. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Any questions? Please feel free to put those in the chat box. Thank you, Sabrina. Let's see if we have any questions.
Thank you.
I have a feeling once we get Brian going here, then we'll have some more questions towards the end as well. So, okay.
How long does this? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go
ahead. Yeah, so how long does the certification process take? So that really is dependent on how quickly you get your documents uploaded on my.nglcc.org. So our certification committee meets monthly, and they'll give the gold stamp and seal of approval to say that you're certified. But if, for example, we just had a meeting last week, so if you were to get all of your documents in within the next 2 weeks, you could be certified at our next meeting in mid-June. So roughly 3 to 4 weeks overall, but it's also dependent on how quickly you submit those documents. So if you go, I see, I may have missed it, but what did you say what type of documents are needed? Yes, so those are going to be general documents to confirm that you are a legal operating business entity in the United States, things to affirm your tax ID. This information is stored in a very secure fashion and is only used for the purposes of certifying your company. It's locked, sealed, and vaulted for the entire duration of your certification, and then also status qualifier documents. You can also go to nglcc.org and you can download a one-pager that will tell you every single thing you need, or if you make that profile my.nglcc.org, you'll also find it there. And thanks, Brian, for those comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Certification lasts 2 years, and a status qualifier document is what I mentioned before. It is a document or 3 documents that certify that you are in fact LGBT. And this is to ensure that opportunities for LGBT-owned businesses are in fact going to LGBT-owned businesses. Our certification is modeled off of the WBE Women's Business Enterprise National Council certification and the National Minority Supplier Development Council Corporation certification to make sure that you are in fact who you say you are on paper and that you're 51% or more LGBT owned, controlled, and operated.
Okay, great questions. Thank you, Sabrina. We really, really appreciate it. And then Sabrina will be sticking around with us while we lead into the next presenter, and then we'll open it up for some more Q&A once our next presenter is finished. So let me introduce Brian Hall. And let me just say, Brian has been a huge advocate and supporter of the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber. We've had Shell as one of our corporate partners for a number of years, and it is through this relationship with Brian that it's been strong. He's been just hugely supportive of the Chamber and advising us. So let me quickly introduce him. He is the manager for Supplier Diversity and Advocacy, Small Business Liaison Officer at Shell Oil Company. He received his BA in Marketing and Computer Science at Sam Houston State University, as well as postgraduate work at Texas A&M and Rice University. Brian started his career in energy with Diamond Shamrock, now Valero, in 1989, and he recently completed, wow, Brian, his 25th year with Shell Oil Company in Houston. Throughout his career, he has delivered commercial impact across many of Shell's business units, including retail marketing, Shell Chemicals, and Shell Pipeline. However, Brian describes his current diversity and inclusion work as the role of a lifetime, as he helps to lead Shell's supply chain transformation by focusing on developing the pipeline of small and/or diverse-owned business enterprises. His passion, and if you've ever met Brian, you know this is absolutely true, is helping suppliers to find their fit in the energy supply chain. Brian. Oh, he's on mute.
Oh, am I on mute? Uh-oh.
There we go. We got you.
Okay, cool. Hi there. Thank you, Tammy. Well, I never tire of hearing that intro, because it reminds me that that you have to love what you do, and if you don't, you should change. Let me first say thank you again to Tammy, to Maureen, who's behind the scenes making the slides happen and handling the technology, and of course the wonderful and dynamic Sabrina from the team NGLCC. Additionally, I haven't met you all, but any of the Texas chambers, LGBT chambers, thank you for the work that you do and the drive that you have to represent and to encourage and to provide for our LGBT business enterprises. And I'll just start with saying that care for each other is clearly is something that should be a huge learning of where we are today. But it's not just a learning; it really needs to become action. And in as an entrepreneur, our drive to grow our businesses or get business, we may forget that we're actually dealing with humans on each side of those, if you will, fences or walls or gates. And so our ability to just not only show care, but require care, will really do what I think Sabrina mentioned around developing relationships. Business never occurs without a relationship in place. Let's be clear on that. So let me see if I can go through what I have ready for you today. A few slides. One of them is going to be extremely busy, but I'll talk through some of the points that are on there. And again, I believe you will get representation of this information later. If you go to the next slide, Shell is about taking ownership of our commitment to drive the new energy future. And in order to do that, we've coined the phrase of make the future. We can't be held responsible for others, if you will, if we aren't being held responsible for our actions. And so we chose to take on the space of how are we going to make the future. And in order to do that, so it's not just a Shell thing. I believe we should all take on this, because when we think about making the future, it means having a vision, being strategic, developing ideas, building networks and teams, and being solution driven. Now, there are many other things that can be a part of that, but I believe if you can look and wake up every day thinking about, are you doing some of these things well? And if you're not, are you using the resources and connections that you have through certification to help you build these capabilities? Next slide. This is from our legal team, and there's probably some attorneys on the call here. Clearly, as we engage and share, you know, our commitment is to do just that. but it is not and should not be taken as any commitment to do business or for me to encourage any of you to make any decisions around financial investment in Shell or Shell companies. So just know that that's behind the scenes. Next slide. Now I'll talk about what's behind this real quick, and then I'll get to what you see there on the picture. But Shell is a global energy company with oil and gas as a true and strong and historic foundation for what we do. We are in 70 plus countries. We have close to 92,000 employees and 22 refineries, which if you live in Houston, you know what a refinery looks like, even if it's just from Highway 225. And on a normal situation, we produce 3.7 million barrels of oil equivalent every day. In the US, particularly through our president and CEO, Gretchen Watkins, while our focus is on how we do this will shift based on today and what's going to happen soon after, we're really focused on how do we deliver through a US energy transition, how do we develop the US talent and supply chain pipeline, and then how do we show care for each other. Those are three leading indicators. But when you look at this Royal Dutch Shell, we are part of an international company called Royal Dutch Shell, and that's how our stock is traded. And Shell Oil Company is the North American business end of that, and from Canada all the way through Mexico. But Royal Dutch Shell, often I'm approached by suppliers or organizations saying, hey, I want to do business with Shell. And I go, where? And they immediately go, well, wherever. And I go, well, that's not really a good strategic consideration. Shell right here is divided into business units. Upstream is everything that you know about or see around us, digging a hole, if you will, in the ground and bringing up that wonderful product and turning it into something. So that's offshore, onshore, drilling and exploration. Once we do that, we move it over to that third block, which is our downstream business, which is anything associated or most things associated with moving that product from an offshore drill site or an onshore drill location and taking it through a pipeline, through some kind of transportation into either a end user or customer or into a manufacturing site or a terminal or tank farm or something of that sort. Integrated gas and new energies. This is our foray into the new energy future. We're really looking forward, and don't quote me on this, but Shell as an oil and gas historic company, we're an energy company looking forward to how will energy be produced, used, and utilized in 2050 and beyond. So with that, we know that electricity, that solar, biofuels, those are products that you as a consumer are asking for, perhaps demanding. We believe society is looking for that, and we're going to be a big player in that. We're actually going to lead, do our best to lead in that. So when you think about whether or not and where you look for in Shell, are you looking at, can you compete with where we are, or are you going to help drive us where we're headed? Projects and technology is kind of the thread that helps us decide on which projects and technologies we use to drive current business and make it more efficient, more sustainable. And of course, our strong commitment under the Paris Agreement is to reduce and eliminate our carbon footprint, not only as a company, but help you and others reduce your carbon footprint. So when you approach a company like Shell, are you thinking about the things that are critical to our future and how your service or product can address that? Or are you approaching us as a check or a contract? And I think you have an opportunity to shift no matter where you are in that answer. Renewable power and new fuels and Shell Ventures, which is one of my most exciting business customers inside Shell, because they are clearly living and breathing every day what's new, what should be new, and how do we buy into it, how do we support it, how do we partner with it, and then how do we grow it. So if you're one of those minds that's thinking of the future, Shell Ventures might be one of those things you put on your radar screen. Next screen. This is where I'll spend the lion's share of the rest of my time. And I've learned from Sabrina that I need to have more pictures. So my commitment to you is that if you see this presentation again, it'll be more pictures because they're more memorable. Certification. I'm going to say this as Brian. I don't care if you choose to get certified. What I care about is why you want to get certified, because getting certified is just one leg of your potential journey into gaining entry into supply chains, building relationships that you probably couldn't build on your own, and getting connected to the tiered contracting that you've heard from Sabrina. So my deal is around why. So let me quickly walk through a couple points. And again, I'll leave this for you to read. But when I think about 2020 and beyond, most people today are thinking about and worrying about, and you may well be as an entrepreneur, scared, worried, and concerned about 2020. And I understand that. But as an entrepreneur who had a dream and then made your dream reality by starting a business, I hope that you use part of your day and part of your team to think about what's next. And so 2020 beyond, use your certification as an access in understanding your targeted customers' trends, focus, and needs. For Shell in 2020, it's cash conservation. So we are looking at how can we hang on and support and build our cash so that we can really take care of the future. I mentioned care, continuity of supply, and others. Certification. This is an opportunity for you to set strategic actions and expectations. Certifications create an access to learning the strategic needs, as I just mentioned. What we've done, rubber meets the road, is we have a strategy in our legal team to make sure that our legal panels have a presence of LGBT-owned firms. Now, that's not just to do the business. We're trying to get to know who are the best of the best out there and have you available should an opportunity come in for you to step in with a service that can help us do what we do from a legal standpoint. That's one clear focus area. But the other is, how do we help you to get to know our network of supplier diversity advocates? That's the SDA. These are people inside procurement that may not be looking for what you're selling today, but if you can develop a relationship with one or two of them over the next 6 months, then you have the opportunity to be visible to them should they hear about something that they need you for. Your behaviors, number 3. While you wait, someone asked, how long does certification take? Well, the question is, what do you do while you're waiting on that certification? Are you waiting on that piece of paper to go and develop some keen relationships? Well, as a supplier diversity advocate, I'm here to let you know it's probably more important to identify what do you do while you're waiting on the contract, while you're waiting on the right introduction, while you're waiting on certification. What do you do? It's do what you're doing today. Participate in experiences and events not only put on by your wonderful Houston chamber, but by the other Texas chambers and of course by NGLCC. That's where we go to meet you. Supplier diversity in Shell. This is our why. Supplier diversity is a component of our local content program, which is what we call license to operate. We want to show that by investing in you through just being present will help you understand that we do care about you as a citizen and as a part of the community. And therefore, we do want you to think about Shell when you're at that four-way stop and there's 4 gas stations to choose from. But we can't do that if we don't show up in places like this, and we understand that. We want to build community and create long-term success, not only for you, but for the chambers and for our businesses. What would I want to know if I was being certified today? I would want to know, where do I fit? Who's the competition? Why does a change make sense if you're trying to get into a supply chain that doesn't include you today? What's the timing? What are the needs from the customer's point of view, not from your point of view? I get a call every day where someone says, I got something for you and I know it's just going to solve all your problems. And I go, what do I need? And they go, well, you need what I got. And I go, there's an opportunity for us to change the conversation. Let me end this slide piece with the opportunities, because most of you online, no matter what we tell you as a corporation or as an advocate, your mind is around, where do I go get work? Where do I get business? Gimme. And I'm not mad at you for that, but I am proud of you for taking a moment to spend an hour talking about certification. But what I'll tell you is certification for us does what Sabrina already said. It helps us to know that that entrepreneur is what they say they are and does own and operate and manage that business. Beyond that, the only other real value of certification for us is that we get to count that spend when our customers ask us, are you doing business with, are you including, are you developing diverse-owned suppliers, and particularly LGBT-owned firms? And I'll be candid with you right now, is that we have a wonderful opportunity to improve that with the LGBTE business community. It doesn't mean we're going to, and that Brian needs to take about 100 emails and calls. It's about, I want to take this journey with you, and the strong will survive. But it's while you wait is what I'm interested in. What do you want to do while you wait? So we count that spend. You had several partners in your LGBT-owned firm community that have stepped up in the return to work scenarios, providing the PPE, mask equipment, and things of that sort. My question to them is, what's next? Because this will subside after a minute, but what's next? Okay, next slide. Real quickly, find your fit. You heard Tammy mention that. We coined this phrase because it is critical for you, me, and even chambers. Where do you fit when you want to engage with, embrace, and include corporations like us in your future? And so this is a document that I can make available to you. It helps explain, what does Shell look like from a vertical business standpoint? What are some of the services and products that we typically buy in those places? But let me just tell you that that chart on the left is really about what we buy today. What I'm looking for is, what can you uncover that we would need tomorrow and in the future that we can help position you so that you're ready when the opportunity presents itself. And finally, there's a role that we play. And that's on the right is what we share through the supplier diversity team with our contracting and procurement and business colleagues. And I'll quickly share the items in red. It's really the pipeline and the role that they should play. They should have a daily commitment of, are they identifying and connecting diverse suppliers to the opportunities that are known, whether it's building up a current supplier that we have or looking for the next best. They have to agree to invest in, educate, and develop diverse-owned businesses. We are committed to connecting them to the NGLCCs and the chambers to help them be the ones that present like I'm doing today, because the more you get to know them, the more they can get to know you. And finally, promote innovation that supports our Shell brand and supports the economic development of our communities. Those are commitments that we asked our contracting and procurement and business leaders inside Shell to show us how they are playing that role. Let me end where I began. Next slide. None of what I've said matters if you don't have an eye on the future, because we do. And I told a supplier this yesterday evening. I said, are you going to be the supplier that's a barnacle on the side of our ship? Are you going to be someone inside the ship helping us go where we need to go? Have a vision, be strategic, develop ideas, build networks and teams, and be solution driven. Let me make a plug for the NGLCC mentorship program. I'm proud to be a part of it because I finally found my fit and how I can be instrumental, if you will, in the Team NGLCC world. Because I told you we have an opportunity to grow quickly and really importantly with our spend. But I'm going, how do we prepare a supplier for when the opportunities come? That's why I'm personally committed to the NGLCC mentorship program. 20 to 30 mentees, 20 to 30 mentors from all of the corporate brands that you can think of and some that you can't right now. They are committed to a full year of the program, meeting monthly and monthly in pairs. And quarterly, there are quarterly catch-ups where all the full team of mentees and mentors come together. And it's wonderful to hear the mentees and the mentors talk about the things that they talked about, uncovered, challenged, cried about, and developed through that month. It doesn't start by just saying, I want to be a mentee or I want to be a mentor. You have to be clear on and aligned with what does the mentee need and what does the mentor prepare to provide. Needs and actions then occur. And the result of it, friendships, connections, sharings, and growth. Growth in access, growth in knowledge, growth in capacity, and ultimately, growth in business. On behalf of Shell Oil Company, I want to say thank you again to Tammy, your wonderful leadership of the chamber, Sabrina, you and your leadership team at Team NGLCC, Maureen, who probably does more from behind the scenes, but really makes Tammy look good. And all of you entrepreneurs who we know, some of you are struggling with how to get through the next days. But we'll just know, if you really take advantage of the network and the access that you gain with certification, that we believe that you can drive the future and, of course, make the future. So let me know how I can help.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brian. Any questions, please put those in the chat box. And we are glad to get those answered for you. And some great questions earlier. Brian, thank you. You know, I always appreciate not only your commitment to LGBTBE suppliers, but diverse suppliers across, you know, across the board, but certainly your commitment to the NGLCC mentorship program. And I can only imagine how important that program is going to be for a lot of LGBTBE businesses going forward, especially over the next year.
Sure.
Yeah, so. Any questions? We've got the floor open here for questions. Just put those in the chat box. Thank you. Okay, good. All right. Well, good. Getting some great comments in. Can you see those, Brian, Sabrina?
I can.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Well, with that, why don't I, unless we have any other questions pop up, Sabrina, why don't I give you some parting words here, and then I'll let Brian, and then I'll wrap it up.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brian. Great job as always. Jamie, I see you're asking, how does a business get in touch with suppliers? That's a great question. So once you become certified, you have access to the full database of certified LGBT business enterprises so that you can also get in touch with those diverse suppliers with whom you'd like to contract with. Phil, yes, I am on LinkedIn. Brian, are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I am.
He is.
There you go. And I'm Sabrina Gill Kent. I'll put that on here. Otherwise, some parting words. Again, how do I follow the great Brian Hall? I just want to say, Tammy, team, Maureen, thank you all so much for having us. To all of our colleagues at the Texas Chambers, this is an incredibly important time for our businesses, and it's great to see that y'all are still keeping certification and growth opportunities forefront of mind. To all of you who have attended today, thank you for taking the time. I know there's sort of a webinar brain drain these days, so we do our best to keep you engaged and hopefully learning some great new knowledge to help you grow and scale your companies. Do take the opportunity to apply for the LGBT Sip and Pitch Fridays competition. It's incredibly informal, but a great opportunity to gain some advice as you continue to enhance your business and practices. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you. You taking this time today to learn speaks volumes about you and your business ethic. And with that, I'll turn it to Brian.
Yeah, thank you too, Sabrina, and to you entrepreneurs. Again, I may be redundant, but you know, growing your business, I think, is really around what do you wake up every day and do and refine and shift and change. And someone asked, how did we get in touch with suppliers? If you can imagine how many suppliers there are out in the community, yeah, not just this community, but most communities. I think when you align with your why, so if I were to look up your website, if I were to look up your capability statement, it may tell me what you do. It may tell me how long you've been doing it. It may tell me that how great you believe you are, and that's okay. What it doesn't tell me typically is why. And so I would ask you to consider that and share that ad nauseum, because your why is what makes you different. What you do doesn't make you different. Your why is what makes you different. So I would say use this network that is open arms and compassionate and dull, and really make a strategy to how you're going to certainly use it as from your own perspective. But if you have partners and teammates, how do you get them engaged and involved? And from a Shell perspective, I'm lucky to have a role like I have in an industry like we have. And I don't take that for granted. So whatever I can do for you, I will do my best. And it all starts with just creating a friendship. So good luck to all of you. And I look forward to seeing you however we get to see each other in the future. And go team NGLCC, team Houston LGBT Chamber, and you guys be safe and take care of each other.
Well, Sabrina and Brian, thank you both very much, not only for participating today, but for your commitment. You will hear us talk about at the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber. This is about economic empowerment for the LGBTQ and business community. That is what we're working on every day. We couldn't be more proud of our partnerships with the NGLCC and Shell. It is about getting a seat at the table and working to make sure that our community has great business opportunities. This certification is a great way to do that. So I hope you've learned a lot today. We're here if you have any questions, info@houstonlgbtchamber.com. We can put up my contact information as well. Always glad to answer any questions. And probably the biggest statement that, understatement that was made today was Brian saying that Maureen making me look good. So thank you to Maureen for helping us run the program today. She is absolutely tremendous with her support and getting us prepared for today. And again, thank you to the NGLCC, to Shell, and our colleagues at the Texas LGBT Chambers of Commerce. We are proud to partner with you. The recording and presentation will be sent. And remember, if you're not a member of one of the affiliate chambers, you can certainly join and get that certification waived. And with that, we're going to finish it up and say we wish you a great day. And thank you again for joining us. And Brian and Sabrina, thank you again. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.